It's just beans, being beans, and everything's fine, I think.
Oh. I dropped out of college twice. I went into college as a sophomore and I was studying behavioral neuroscience. I loved it, but I wasn't happy. Then I decided to stop taking my required classes, and instead I was taking the classes I actually wanted to take. So jewelry design, boxing, German, philosophy, psychology, and I loved it, but I wasn't happy either. I knew that I couldn't work as a therapist without not only getting my bachelor's degree, but probably a master's or even a PhD. If I finally finish all my school, I'll be happy. Or once I work as a therapist, I'll be happy. And it just wasn't enough. I felt like I had to wait to be happy, but I wanted to be happy now. As much as I fell in love with what I was learning, I feel like in school, it's not enough to just learn. You have to be a good test taker, you have to have good study habits, and you have to be good at time management. I feel like there's a strong correlation between how long I stayed up to study and how well I would do on a test. I wasn't learning to learn, I was just memorizing to get an A, and that took away all the fun. As someone with ADHD, I was a horrible test taker. I knew that I knew the answers, but my brain couldn't process the questions. Did it mean that I didn't learn? Absolutely not. It just meant I wasn't good at taking written tests. So there were two things I wasn't happy with. The feeling that I had to wait to be happy in the future, and feeling pressured to get good grades instead of really learning and enjoying the material. So I dropped out. It was absolutely not an easy decision. I went back and forth on this for a really long time because honestly, I was scared of making the wrong decision. It wasn't until I talked to my therapist about it that I was able to make a decision. He told me to embrace uncertainty, which, okay, I know that sounds like really corny, but hear me out. He said, in life, nothing is ever certain. There's this proverb, it says, man plans and God laughs. You can plan out every step, every goal, every year of your life, but with all the uncertainties in the world, it's almost impossible. Like, who would have ever thought we'd go through a pandemic? My therapist continued to tell me there's no such thing as a right or wrong decision. You pick one and work really hard to make it the right decision. And that always stuck with me. So after that session, I dropped out of school. Choosing to stay in school wasn't the wrong decision, it's just not the one I chose. Am I happy now? Absolutely, because I worked really hard at being happy. I ended up going back to school 2 years later. I wanted to be a university professor, and again, I love to learn. But then I decided that I wanted to start my own jewelry brand, and I dropped back out. I could definitely be happy as a teacher, but I just thought I might be happier being my own boss. So why the obsession with being happy? I actually struggled with major depression since I was 13. By the time I was in 7th grade, I was contemplating suicide nearly every day. I kept thinking it would get better on its own, but it just never did. 6 years later, I was doing even worse, and I was at a point where I couldn't even remember what happiness felt like. Sure, I could have fun with my friends and I'd be able to laugh at jokes, but just having peace of mind and being truly happy was something that was so unfamiliar to me by that point. After I hit my lowest point, I started seeing a therapist. I've always viewed happiness as my end goal. As long as I was happy and making other people happy, I knew I was going the right way in life. And although my definition of happiness is always changing, my yearning for happiness isn't. There's no such thing as a right or wrong decision. You just pick one and work hard to make it the right decision.